My dad, Robert Dean Jarrett Jr., was born in LaGrange, Illinois, 30 minutes outside of Chicago, to Margaret Ann Spaniel Jarrett and Robert Dean Jarrett Sr. on January 18, 1962, and was born just minutes before his twin sister Beth Jarrett was born. They had two older sisters, Tammy and Terry. Aunt Beth and my dad were born premature and stayed in the hospital in an incubator for almost 2 months before they were allowed to go home. My grandpa and grandma lived in an apartment complex in LaGrange, in a 2-bedroom apartment, while grandpa worked for Radon Laboratories as a chemist. In late 1962, they moved from LaGrange, Illinois to Framingham, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Because grandpa got a job as a chemist with the U.S. Army Natick Laboratory in Natick, Massachusetts, they purchased a moderate 3-bedroom and 1-bath ranch house on Round Top Drive in the community of Knobscot off Edgeville Road. The neighborhood was developed on an old apple orchard, so there were plenty of trees and rolling hills for a young boy to play. Grandma was active with groups when they were little and mother of twins and other community organizations throughout the neighborhood, because money was tight and they could not afford to do things that cost a lot of money. They were members of the Presbyterian Church of Sudbury, Massachusetts. Grandma and a couple of the other mothers in the neighborhood who had children the same age as Aunt Beth and him got together and started a homeschool preschool for them to attend the year before they were to go into first grade. My dad went into Hemingway Elementary School sometime during the early 70s when he was in elementary school. The Boston school system was desegregated and integrated with inner-city black kids who were bused from the city out to their schools. Once all the kids were in school, Grandma went back to college taking night classes and finished her bachelor's in home economics. My dad grew up with 3 best friends when he was little: Greg Gonthier, John Sweeney, and Tim McFadden. Their mothers used to state on a number of occasions that these 4 boys could get into more trouble than any boys they ever knew. Back then it wasn't like it is today. They didn't have colored TVs, computers, Xbox, PlayStation, or any of those types of things to entertain them. They spent all the time they could outside. Hockey was one of my dad's favorite sports from being a toddler up and through middle school. They had an area in their backyard that would fill with water and freeze come wintertime that was large enough when he was little to start learning how to skate. They soon moved up and was allowed to walk down the street to the pond where they would play hockey from the minute they got home from school till after dark, when often Grandma would come looking for him and drag him home because he didn't hear her calling him home. My dad said everyone in the neighborhood knew when my parents were looking for me because Grandpa could whistle so loud. Skiing was another one of my dad's favorite sports when he was younger. With the neighborhood being hilly, it was the first place he learned how to ski. They would put on their skis and ski down the hills and then walk back up. They even got to where they would build jumps and ice the hills down so they could go faster. My dad played baseball in the summer, and as he got older, made it onto a full all-star team, playing catcher and center field. He played baseball, basketball, football, and hockey when he was younger, up and through high school. When he wasn't outside, he was given chores to do, which were to cut the grass, tack out the trash, help with the garden, and keep the house swept clean. He would help Grandpa with yard work, painting the house, and completing the basement by building a large bedroom for all his sisters, family room, storage room, laundry room, bathroom, and shop for Grandpa. My grandpa would always instill in him, if you're going to do a job, do it right and don't do it half-ass. Anytime my dad would swear up doing a job, that is what he heard, over and over. Framingham North High was one of 4 high schools in their town, with an enrollment of about 2,400 kids that covered 9th through 12th grade. The high school was ranked high in scholastic achievement, but there was a serious drug problem at the school back in the late 70s and early 80s, with LSD, marijuana, and speed. There was actually a path leading the school grounds into a low-income neighborhood called Burr Valley. By the time my dad graduated from high school, the route was regularly patrolled by uniformed police officers. My dad lost his best friend in the winter of his junior year when he and some other guys were out drinking and driving, and Ed lost control of the car and hit a large tree. He suffered massive internal injuries, while the other guys suffered minor scrapes and bruises to a broken arm, and one guy broke his ankle. As you can tell, though my dad and his sisters went to a school where there was equality between students, they didn't have all the things we do today. They didn't have gaming systems and technology that could allow for them to sit inside all day. They were constantly outside playing sports or doing summer jobs. Kids today have become less active and even less responsible because they aren't required to do chores or get jobs. Even though it was almost 30 years ago, they still have the same sports we do. They still have the same drug problems in schools and neighborhoods, and they still had kids who went out drinking and driving and still had shootings. I'm sure anyone that was alive during those years would say that it was completely different then, and I would agree. But when you start looking at all the small differences, it really wasn't. They still had all the same criminal problems we do, the same activities that some people still enjoy, and the same teenage mischief. One of the main differences that is always going to be a factor in the advances that science has. Technology is more than likely always going to be a changing factor in science as well. My dad grew up in a time where kids found it an everyday occurrence to be outside playing until dark, yet today, many kids would find that to be a punishment.